Greetings, my name is Harrison Hunt. I will be your guide on your quest. And with me is the torchbearer. It's James Clark.
Oh.
And we're in a new location. Nomads. Moving around. You know what I mean?
You say moon around?
Moving around.
I thought we said moon around. It's getting our asses out.
Moon around. Well, anyway.
Oh, love is my bum.
Right.
Sorry.
Enough. This isn't supposed to be funny.
Yeah, this is supposed to be a dead serious podcast.
This is a show all about tabletop RPGs, and today we have a show so fucking spectacular, it's going to make you have a trouser explosion. Isn't that right?
Yeah. Yes.
Which is actually quite appropriate, and you'll see once we get to the main subject how appropriate this really is. And today we're going to do feedback, we got news punch, we got what you've been slaying, and the main subject this time is going to be, well, I think I'm just going to call it the guy's name who we're talking about, so it's going to be all about a bloke called Arcadum. And if you don't know who that guy is, well, get to know, because it's going to be a bit fucked up. And then we're going to end it with Electro letters. James, are you excited?
You know that trouser explosion you've been talking about?
Is it happening now?
It's happening now.
Nice. Nice. I keep thinking of that guy hitting himself in the balls with the fucking resistance band.
You just need that soundbite.
I'm definitely
go in now.
Yeah, I'm going to do that instead of the feedback jingle. I'm just going to play that.
I have a question. Does anyone know how to actually use these things? Because I seriously have no idea.
So, feedback. Obviously, we had Sean on the last episode, right? Loads of people are saying they want him on as a regular, and they want a conspiracy theory segment specifically done by Sean. A lot of people saying that on the Discord. I'm also trying to get him to join the Discord so that he can sort of become their whipping boy sort of thing.
Oh, mate, that's such a good idea.
But he's just not done it. He keeps telling me he's going to join, and then he won't. But to be fair, he hasn't figured out online banking yet. He still goes into the bank to do all of his stuff. So.
And he'll sit there in the Weatherspoons, and then he'll take 5 minutes putting in his card details, and then he'll end up going to the bar anyway.
Right, I've got fucking Apple Pay set up on my phone, so when I want to order something, you just put it through the app, the beer comes to your table, where every time Sean gets out his card, types it in, realises he's done it wrong, then goes to the bar.
Yeah.
Every time.
Yep.
So this is probably why he hasn't joined the Discord, is what I'm saying. But yeah,
we'll do it for him, I think.
Yeah,
we'll just take his phone off him and then sort him out.
And then put notifications on, put like a really annoying jingle for it.
Yeah.
What we'll do later on in the show, he is at work today, which is why he couldn't be with us, even though he said he could be here today.
Fucking idiot.
Yeah, so we'll call him halfway through the show to get his conspiracy theory segment down. We'll talk about crop circles or something.
Yeah.
But Ace B, he says, I was listening to the Morkborg episode on my phone, paused it to get to the shop before it closed. In the shop, I accidentally pressed play while paying for snacks, and the words, "Shove it up there, then put it in his mouth," played extremely loudly. Shopkeeper just looked at me silently judging.
Yes.
That was a low point, I feel. I mean, so we will be talking about the Morkborg shit later on, but the thing is, during that episode, we did a flashback where... What was it you shoved up his bum? Oh, these guys shoved crumpets up.
Crumpets, sorry.
Yeah, up an NPC's bum and then shoved them in his mouth.
Yeah, He deserved it.
He did deserve it, but it's beautiful. It's art when you think about it, isn't it?
Yeah, fart.
Really
nice. Good toilet humour.
We're doing so well so far without bringing any humour to this dead serious podcast.
Oh, yeah, I mean.
Spyros, now this is a long one. He says, "Dear 3Ts, I listen to your podcast semi-regularly. You fucking... You piece of shit.
Just because we talked about trouser explosions.
You fucking cunt.
I can't believe it.
He says, and I immensely enjoy it. Yeah, well, not enough to listen regularly.
You motherfucker.
On the subject of Mega Dungeons, I would like to suggest that you take a look at Caverns of Thracia by Judges Guild and Janelle Jacques under the name Paul Jacques. It is not as massive as the ones you explored, but it's massive enough. It's a very good example of how the geography, faction play, resource management, and reaction table can create emergent storytelling and make an interesting environment that makes for a sustainable campaign through dark halls. A word of advice is that it's very old and not such an easy read, but it's totally worth it nonetheless. We will check that out.
Yeah.
That was on my list for when we did the Mega Dungeons episode, but I got to a point where I realised that there are far too many to talk about, so I just talked about the main ones. But that is one that gets mentioned a lot, so I'll definitely check it out.
Did you do a bit of research on that one already as a result? Or?
No. Okay. No, I didn't. I had it in a big list, and there was some that I just didn't get to, so I don't know anything about it, but I trust this guy. If he listens semi-regularly, he's elite.
I semi-trust this guy.
Exactly. But he carries on. He says, on the probably dead by now matter of appropriating stuff from pubs and bars, I was at one time working as kitchen staff in a paid bar by the shift. Sorry. A Saturday night, I got paid €5 less than agreed because the night didn't go as planned, for the nth time since I started. So I complained that it's not the first time it happens and that she should pay me what he owes since there was no such thing as a bad night in our agreement. The daft owner had the nerve, or lack of brains, to fire me, then hand me the keys to close the shop so he could go home while I stayed to clean the bar for the night. So I went home with 2 single malts and an aged rum that were worth about the money he owed me, and that's the story of my only theft ever. Have a great pod, keep up the good work, Spyros. I would definitely do the same. I have a kind of funny exiting work story that I did once. Was for about 2 weeks, there was a point where I lost my job once due to idiocy, and I worked at a pensions company for 2 weeks doing temp work. And they sacked me because I got a job interview somewhere else because I was a temp worker. And they were like, well, you obviously don't want the job here. And I was like, do you know what? No, that's fucking depressing. Anyway.
That's the whole point in a temporary worker.
Well, yeah, well, exactly. And the office, the way you left the office was you had to press a button to open the door. And I super glued a Smarties lid over the button so that nobody could press it just before I left. So they would have had to ring the fire alarm to get out. I mean, I sincerely hope there wasn't a fire, because that is...
They probably just ripped it off.
Yeah, probably. But I felt... And I also, get this, I thought I was really fucking rebellious. I left half an hour early.
Oh, mate, you're cool.
I know. That's why I'm running Cyberpunk next, because I'm a fucking legend.
Speaking of taking the liberties with like leaving early and stuff, I remember years ago when I was a temp and I was doing some piece of shit admin work at some place. And it was actually for the Royal Mail. And I was in the office, and I just had a 2-hour lunch break one time just because they really didn't care about me. So I was like, I'm just going to. Yeah,
you were just sort of like set it and forget it, data entry, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then I turn up and back in and then no one would notice. Like,
well,
all right.
When I used to work for a bank, I remember I worked at Fulham for quite some time. It was actually one of my favourite places I've ever worked, but mainly because me and another girl worked on the front desk advising people on financial shit, which is, that shows you how bad that fucking bank was. But the fucking, we just agreed day one when we got there. We were like, okay, let's just cover each other. Let's both take a 2-hour lunch, because we were, and so. For like 3 months while I was working there, we just had 2-hour lunches, and I'd go to the pub down the road. It was fucking great. But yeah, if listeners out there have got any stories of how they stuck it to the man, then message in.
Yeah, do it, please.
Do it. But that is it for feedback this time. I mean, there was a lot of feedback about Sean, obviously, but I didn't have time to go and compile it because my fucking son is taking the piss. He's only 2 weeks old and he's commanding everything.
He's like, where?
I can't believe I used to think I knew what being tired was.
Oh my God, yeah, I know, it's different.
The thing is, he sleeps really well, but Millie's labour, I don't know if I'm supposed to say this on a podcast, but it was 49 hours.
It's pretty short.
And we didn't even sleep the whole time. I mean, it was harder for me, I think. Anyway, let's do a news punch, shall we?
Ugh.
So there is no news. Next segment. No, there is one piece of news, right? Do you remember a while ago we spoke about there was a new American publisher that was publishing translations of Japanese tabletop RPGs. One of which was Summon Skate. It was a game where battling was done using ice skating to summon demons.
Ice skating?
Yes, and you would skate around and draw runes to summon demons. The cool thing is that the way combat worked, it was you used a whiteboard and you would draw shapes in one consecutive motion.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it sounded really great. It's failed funding.
Oh, no.
So we will never see that in the West. So if there are any Japanese listeners, which there aren't... Actually, no, we do have one listener that speaks Japanese. Can you translate the whole thing for me for free, please?
Thanks.
But that is it for news. It's been another slow week. But shall we talk about what we've been playing?
Yeah?
When now?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I think we should. It's about time.
Yeah. And have one of these. Oi, yeah? What you slaying? Teenage Mutant Ninja Beasts. We've been playing Savage Worlds. My brother's been running a game with Mutant Hero Beasts, he calls it, which is basically Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, except the main characters aren't turtles, or ninjas,
or teenage. Oh wait,
actually no, they were teenage. Yeah. So it's recently ended, and I feel like my brother was a little bit pissed off at what happened.
I feel like, all right, honest opinion, and I think at the beginning he was, but then he really wasn't, because
the ending was fucking great.
Sean basically had at least, because I asked him about between 6 and 8 more episodes that he could have done for us, or sessions.
So the way it's been working is because my wife was pregnant, and I was at the point where I was like, well, I'm realistically not going to be able to run a game for a while. After Sean's campaign ended, he just said, right, I'm doing another arc of the campaign, and we started a new story. So it started off with us trying to figure out who did a school shooting, traced it back to Shredder, and then he shot us with a time portal gun and sent us back to feudal Japan, like in the Turtles.
So that was feudal Japan was arc 2.
And then once that arc finished and we managed to get back to our own time, a third arc started where he sent us into the future.
Yeah, it was like we basically got morphed into a parallel universe on a kind of different world, although the same but different.
And it was a kind of a post-apocalyptic mecha arc of the campaign.
And honestly, it was set up. I reckon it was set up to be absolutely phenomenal if we played through what Sean had planned.
But here's the trouble. Here's the trouble that I find. And this is what's happened. This is my experience every single time. If you introduce time travel into a campaign, the campaign will not last very long. Because time travel solves all the problems. And the thing is that, okay, so we got transported to this other world, right?
And this is, so the reason the feudal Japan arc lasted so long, we knew time travel existed, but we had no way of making it work because it was feudal Japan.
Yes, exactly. And so what we had to do was track down Shredder in that universe, in that time, to try and get his portal gun, because there was no way we could get the technology to do it otherwise.
But then Arc 3 in the post-apocalyptic, futurized, cyberpunky world, all the tech was around us, so it was just a case of shitting it all together and then trying to make it work.
Yeah, and so the central storyline was that there's these monsters called the Beta, and we had joined as mech pilots to fight them, and basically had tested our abilities, found that we actually sort of, I don't know what you'd call it, but like...
had an innate ability to control the
mechs. Yes, exactly like in all mecha animes, basically. But the thing is, when we got sent out on the first mission, see, my character had the Code of Honor hindrance, right? And the way I saw it was when we know that when we time travel back to our own time, that we'd created several alternate realities where Shredder was doing really, really bad shit. And I got to the point where I was like, well, I've got a Code of Honor. I know that all this bad shit is going on. Yet we're here fucking around with someone else's problems where the world has already ended and they're just clinging on to nothing, right? So at that point, the guys went out on a mission and I drank a load of salt water to make myself sick. And I was a weird scientist, to be fair. That was my character background.
Yeah, so he knew, he'd know like stuff like that, make himself ill just so he could stay back. And
yeah, and then I wanted to basically... They had this supercomputer, and I wanted to repurpose parts of it and all the technology to make a wormhole to send us back to our time.
Yeah, because he wanted to make a wormhole to clash time, the worlds, so that we could simultaneously get rid of the Beta and Shredder and the Technodrome.
Now, I have something to admit. When I started with it, I didn't really have a plan. What happened is that I just thought I need to make this work somehow. So while these guys are out on the mission, I'm going to start working on it.
And to be honest, we thought, because Sean did very well to handle all of us. Firstly, I need to say that it was amazing. Sean obviously thought about it a lot because we unlocked special abilities in our mechs, but he didn't even refer to his notes once.
And he made all of his own mech rules for Savage Worlds as well, and they were really fucking good.
Yeah. But he... what happened was when Harrison initially, his character was trying to make the time machine, during the time available at the moment and going on the roles that Harrison completed, Sean was like, right, you're a quarter of the way through. So I suppose in our mind, and in yours, Harrison, it was a case of, I know I've got to do this, but it's not going to happen this session.
Yeah, but then I wanted to supercharge it, so that's why I made myself sick, and I wanted to carry on doing it while you guys were away. And yeah, here's the thing I've got to admit is that I went onto the Discord, our Discord, and I said, guys, I need to build a time travel machine in Savage Worlds. How would I do it? Quick answers needed, please. And CJ Stock came in and went, weird science and ritual rules. And I was like, okay, cool. And then I suggested it to Sean. He was like, yeah, okay, all right, you can do it.
Oi!
But here's the thing. He was cool to let me do it. For starters, but also I posed to him because dramatic tasks are basically extended skill challenges.
Yep.
And those should be used when the consequences of it are dire, like a character dying, complete failure of a mission, things like this, right? And I said, how about this? I do a ritual, which is a 5-round skill challenge. I need to get 5 successes, but if I fail rerouting power to my device, then we'll lose all power for good. Right? Yeah. I think that was a fair, because that would have sparked off another storyline. So I gave him something to work with. But he was cool to let me do it. And then in the end, so the beta, these giant aliens, and then our mechs, I basically portaled them to our dimension with Shredder's giant base, the Technodrome, in the middle. And we ended the campaign with a giant mechs versus kaiju fight with a Technodrome also in the centre of it. So it's like a 3-party fight.
It was pretty mad, especially that because we were in the mechs. And it was like, yeah, it was proper tanking.
And also I said, he did seem kind of annoyed at the start, but I did mention, I knew that at that moment, people in 3 different universes were suffering, and there was no way my character with his, code of honour could let that happen.
Yeah, because you could see it all unfolding, because in the Feudal Japan arc, this Albert Einstein character actually died, so then he couldn't continue his code of honour because he got obliterated. But when we brought him back, when we went back to the future type thing, that's when he sort of survived, and we had him stay with us, and then that's when his weird science brain could continue whirring the cogs.
It was pretty cool as well, and we got to do like our own little endings, and we ended as the campaign begun with us partying in the sewers.
Yeah.
And also got on TV, so we've ushered in a new age of mutants living with humans, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, that's one thing that I think that ultimately we kind of wanted to bring about, because in the 3rd arc that was already common, but that was because it was firstly a different dimension, but secondly 20 years on.
Yes, yeah. So it could be that we were the ones that made that happen, really. It was a fucking cool ending, actually, and I felt like he dealt with it really well. I did feel a bit bad because I didn't just follow the road that he wanted to take us on, but the whole campaign had been very much free-flowing and stuff anyway. So.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I think I think I mentioned it before, but this time round, Sean has just beasted it. I don't know what's happened, but this has been his best campaign ever.
It was fucking great. Well, but I think the big thing is that A, the amount of freedom we had, and B, the fact that we were playing mutant teenage heroes. Do you know what I mean? It was so stupid a lot of the time. And, as we were doing our endings, when one of my characters died, before we went back to our time and got him again, we all played pun-based characters. I'm sorry, listeners. But Albert Einstein, my original character, died, and I took up the mantle of Huge Yakman. And Huge Yakman, I've got to say, I did min-max him. But he couldn't do much other than fight, to be fair.
Yeah, but you did it on purpose, because like we established that this campaign was innately silly because it was bloody, it was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That's it.
Yeah, and so I kind of did it on purpose, but yeah, so he couldn't speak. That was one of the things I sort of bought that hindrance so I could take more racial benefits for being a giant yak. And he had a huge toughness, ridiculous fighting. Anyway, so right at the end, Sean, he says to me, he's like, right, so that's your guys' ending. You can have any ending you want for Huge Yak Man. And he finds the only words he could say throughout the whole campaign was, I retard. And he finally found his voice, and in the end he turns himself into the police, and he turns out he's a serial rapist.
It was a fitting end because he was Min-Max character, I suppose, and he didn't speak much, so he probably just took his frustration out in that, like a really weird, fucked up, dark side to him that no one ever saw.
Because he couldn't speak.
Yeah.
He was probably saying it the whole time when he was going.
He was like, "Someone help me!"
But you know, the funny thing is that I had to miss one session, which is amazing, right? Considering my wife's just given birth, I thought I was going to be like gone for months, but she's made an incredible recovery. So I missed one session, and James recorded it for me, and I was listening to it a bit while my wife was in labour. But it was during the bits where she was trying to sleep. All right. So anyway, it was funny because there's an out of context quote. I can't even remember what it said, but we were playing all teenagers. And one guy at the table, he says, "I'm 14, I've got a massive cock."
What?
Yeah, I don't know. I can't even remember the content. I'll see if I can find the clip, but it was a bit mental listening to it. But yeah, that's Mutant Hero Beasts. He says that he's going to do a fourth arc when we start it up again, after the next campaign.
Fourth arc would be sick, though.
Yeah. He's thinking he wants to do a sort of mecha arc, type thing. And I suggested, it's in the near future, right? Maybe now that mechs have come from another universe, people have seen that America has mechs, and it starts an arms race, and then we have a mecha thing.
That'd be sick, though.
Mork Borg ended, though.
It did.
Yeah.
It did.
Yeah,
it really did.
I mean, we'll get into that later, because we've actually got some questions about it in Electro letters. But, overall, what did you make of it now that we've finished the campaign?
I really enjoyed it. I like the fact that, as we kept saying, it was very murky-burky. But if you understand what that means, then it really was. I liked how each session was different, and I really enjoyed the fact that we managed to just live on the life of vengeance.
Yeah. I
mean,
mean,
that really spun it for me, because I thought that's fucking cool, because we've always got this. We don't care if we're the bad guys at that point, because we're just
it's like morals mostly have gone out the window because it's all about revenge. I think if you wanted to play a short campaign, it's kind of a good idea. Like, I'm not tooting my own horn here, but it's quite a good idea because revenge is always satisfying. It's why revenge movies are so popular.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and I had a blast with it. A lot of people were kind of confused by the ending, but that was intentional. Yep,
it's intentional.
So we'll talk about it during the Electro Letters segment, most likely. But I kind of did the ending all with sound. And if you were listening carefully throughout the whole series, you could kind of have an idea as to what happened right at the end. There was actually a more succinct actual ending. There's probably about half an hour extra of footage that comes after it that I decided to cut out, but to keep it ambiguous. But I think it worked. I liked it, but some people were kind of confused by it. But I think that's a good thing.
It is.
Yeah, some people were theorising about it in the Discord and stuff. But yeah,
really? I haven't actually caught up with that.
Yeah, it was a while ago now.
I'm shit at Discording, mate.
I am too.
I'm absolutely terrible.
I tend to go on there when I'm drunk as well, which is a bad idea.
Because
I shared that video. The one. A gentleman trying to get a hand job.
Oh!
It's not what it sounds like, but I also can't say the title of it because it's a little bit offensive.
Yeah.
But it's like one of our favourite YouTube videos ever, and it is very funny. It's basically just a kid going around a skate park, and he doesn't know what he's saying, and he's saying something really offensive over and over again. Alright, well, that was it for Mork Borg. But yeah, and I just wanted to talk about a couple of gets, because obviously it was my birthday since the last podcast.
Oh, yeah.
5 days before my son was born, which was good timing, because I didn't want him stealing my thunder.
You motherfucker.
But yeah, fucking CJ Stott, one of the listeners, he sent us a little care package, because he's having a bit of a clear out of his RPG stuff and wondered if there was anything we needed. He sent Nick the entire sort of box set and core rulebook of the Alien RPG, which looks really fucking good. But he also sent me Cyberpunk Red, which,
what
as
a
I
legend.
mentioned, you know when we did the Cyberpunk podcast that I said it is a better version of the game, but it's way too expensive. And we were talking about it on the Discord server, and then somebody said he just came in and said, "Harrison, you were talking about Cyberpunk Red. Do you want it?" And I was like, "Hell yes!"
Just like what?
I know, and it's so nice, and it does do a couple of things to streamline the game, which I really like. But the book just looks beautiful. So that's actually going to be my next campaign that I'm running, starting next Thursday, and we're going to do a thing where you guys operate a pirate radio station in Night City. That's going to be the sort of basis for the campaign.
But also the basis is are we still linking it to Tough Guys?
Yes, so it's our Tough Guys campaign, which was a British gangster one. So it's set in the same universe as that. It's not going to be overtly Tough Guys, but the Holloway firm are that was the characters' gang when we played before. They're going to be one of the big corporations in Night City, because I just think that's a lot of fun.
It would be nice, because then there's something that we can immediately relate to, and the fact that it's kind of an extension of a previous world. Because obviously technology would have advanced greatly for it to be cyberpunk.
Tough Guys was set in 1995.
Yeah.
And this is set in 2045, I think. So I think
so it makes sense, really.
It does, and I think it'll be a hell of a lot of fun. I've got a couple of good scenarios for it as well. I bought the GM screen, and
yes, did you?
Yes, and it's
really looking forward to seeing that.
It's really nice. But the coolest thing is that do you remember Loki battle maps ages ago? They sent us this little flip book of battle maps.
Yeah.
So essentially, it's a ring-bound thing. So it sits flat on a table. It's a dry and wet erase, and it's basically a bunch of battle maps for use in your games. Now, they sent us the little book, right? And they're kind of small maps, good for miniature like encounters.
Yeah.
I bought the Loki Battle Maps giant book of Cyberpunk Battle Maps, and it said on the website A3. That's A3 when it's closed.
Oh, shit.
It's gigantic, and it's A2, and it's got something like 62 different maps.
So it's going to be useless at Ryan's house in his small table.
Yes, yeah.
But it'll be work fine at mine.
yeah, but well, the cool thing is, though, actually, now that you mention it, is that all of the maps are designed so one half of them can be used as well. So you can fold it flat. So there's one that's a diner, but if you open it out, it turns into a nightclub, which is really fucking cool.
That's fucking smart.
Yeah, so hopefully it's going to be really good. I also bought some miniatures as well. Like, listeners won't know this, but I recently got rid of all my minis because I needed the space for my son's room. So I've invested quite heavily into paper miniatures, and so I've got like hundreds of minis in just one box.
But they're invested in cards to put the paper miniatures on.
Yes, exactly. But there's this company called Arknight Miniatures that do flat plastic miniatures that have bases. So essentially they take up very little room, have really cool artwork on them, and they're about $30 for 56 miniatures, which is...
Are they all coloured as well?
Yes, yeah. So and the artwork's quite nice. So I bought the Cyberpunk pack and the Civilians pack because, then I've got 112 minis to use for the campaign.
That's pretty sick, though.
The idea is I just wanted to get it all done now. Like, I've got all these resources, and then prep is very much... not an issue. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because at the moment I can't fucking find 5 minutes to take a shit. I mean, I'm surprised I'm here, to be honest. But yeah, so Cyberpunk Red, I'll be running that next, and I think it'll be a hell of a lot of fun. One of the cool things that I've noticed so far is that in this particular, Cyberpunk is quite a complicated game, and creating characters is really fucking complicated. But in the new version, they have rules for 3 different character creation types. So there's one where you just pick templates. You'll just go, this class, this set of stats, this set of equipment, done.
Is that for just like a quick fire? You need to make a character in 2 seconds flat.
Yes, yeah. Or like if you wanted to do a one shot, or if you quickly need to make an NPC or whatever. And then there's a sort of a midway point between that and creating it fully, where you kind of pick templates, but you buy skills, like that type of thing.
All right.
And then there's, obviously, you can make it just completely fully. But I'm thinking I'm going to go for the middle one because I don't want it to take 4 hours. But yeah, it's a really great game, and a lot of the stuff it does to streamline is really, really quite good. And it's a beautiful book too. But yeah, so that should be fun.
I'm really looking forward to it.
Very last thing I'll talk about is James got me some birthday presents.
Yeah.
Some really fucking cool ones. So... so you bought me a D50 to go with my DCC set. It's like a red D50.
Yeah, like a circular D50.
A proper one.
Yeah.
Because I did have a D50. Sean's now got it, but
it's a spin top. It was like 2 spin tops put together.
It looks like a butt plug.
Yeah.
And it's not very nice, and it's a horrible colour. And that was the only one that was available for quite some time. That's why I had it. But yeah, the one you got me is way nicer. It's just a normal circular dice. But you also got me some tiny luminescent dice.
Yeah. Yep, some tiny ones. They're definitely below the average size, but they're actually, I think they're casted well and they very good readability.
Yeah, they're very nice. And do you know what? I actually thought something, because those mini dice, beyond just being a novelty for being small, actually, if you're GMing, you've got loads of stuff behind your screen. It's quite good to save the space.
Yeah, and it's also good for transportation reasons as well, because it's like
Also
it could fit in a pen slot. Well, it's slightly chunkier than that, the whole size, but still.
And as sort of a joke present, you got me some, you know, Rory's story cubes, right? James got me some of those, but sexual ones.
Yeah, but
they're much more useful than you would think.
Yeah, so obviously they have like positions and that, but then they've also got places.
Places, weather for some fucking reason, items. There's also one that is body parts, but I said to James, like, okay, it is a pair of tits or a dick or whatever, but
it's chest.
But you could,
groin.
Yeah. It could be used as a hit locator. I was like, these are actually useful. And the funny thing is that, so I then went and bought some more story cubes because I like them so much. So I got the fantasy ones, which are really nice. But the very final thing you got me was a gigantic D100.
Yes, mate. It was a
pure
pure metal one, because he's got a metal set, and he was his mum got him them Christmas gone or Christmas before it.
Yeah,
actually.
yeah, Christmas.
And Harrison absolutely loves them and has used them a lot at the table. And then I know that that one, I think that one in particular, you eyeballed up and were just like, oh mate, I'd love that.
It's so fucking heavy as well.
It's like bigger than a golf ball. I
was passing it from hand to hand, just enjoying the weight of it, when I dropped it on my coffee table, and it was like, goosh! And I was like, okay, going to stop playing with that. But I was thinking, like, because in Cyberpunk, all of the random encounter tables, and I've got a weather table as well that's a D100.
Yes,
and
mate.
Currently, one of the things I like to do as a GM is give players, like, little jobs to do. Like, okay, you hand out cards for initiative, or you give out bennies when you think somebody's done a cool move, or whatever, right? And so I'm thinking I might put that giant D100 on the table and be like, okay, random encounter, roll that, and then people get to use it, and because it's giant and awesome. I think it would just. I hope it has to be in a dice tray though.
Yeah, that's the thing,
because you've got a very nice table.
It's because it's so big. It fucking rolls for days, mate. If you actually rolled it, like, you know, just try to like let it fall out.
You could wipe out a city.
Yeah, it would just go, mate.
Just keep going. If you drop it, it just keeps going to Australia.
When I transported it to Harrison, she was in my car and almost popped my tyre.
I imagine your car just being like
sideways,
yeah,
just on two wheels.
But then when you take a corner quickly and it rolls to the other side. But yeah, thanks, man. Really cool present. So
yeah, who knew that I could get Harrison more dice?
Yeah, but you know, sometimes it's no offense to anyone who's ever done this, but you know, sometimes as a gamer for a birthday present, somebody will just go to the store and buy, just give me a random pack of dice. There you go. But these, I actually thought
they were purposeful.
They're very thoughtful. Yeah,
I mean the small ones were in joke because of when I once bought an extremely tiny metal set of dice.
They were like 2 millimeters.
They were, and I used them at the con that I bought them at. And then the GM thought I kept cheating because as I rolled it, I had to like put my whole face inside the tray to read them. I was like, oh wait, I got a 17.
Because you yourself couldn't even read them.
No.
And you were doing it at a bloke's game who you've never met.
Yeah, he was getting really annoyed. So it's kind of a joke since then. So that's why I got the mini set.
Yeah, it was a good fucking birthday, man.
It was a good fucking.
It was a good fucking. But that is it for what we've been saying. I think we've gone on pretty fucking long yet again. But, I mean, there's lots happened. I mean, it's been a while since we did the last bloody episode.
That's true, yeah. There's been a lot going on. We had to put some delays on.
I've been shat on, literally, by a baby.
More than once.
You know good time. I don't want to make this about babies because it's, like, it really bore people. But, Jesus. Like, people say... You know, like, oh, that first shit, the smell is unbelievable. I thought I was prepared for it, right? I've been to fucking music festivals. I know what the toilets smell like.
He's been to RPG conventions, mate.
Yeah, exactly, right? Exactly. But it is the worst. And it was the first time I've ever changed a nappy. That's a diaper to you Americans. And I took it off, put the nappy to one side, And then he began shitting again. Now I know, right? And now I know that you're supposed to keep it there while you do the wiping, but I didn't know at the time.
Yeah,
we were
mate.
on a ward.
Shield.
There was another couple, one over from us, and I was going, "Oh Jesus Christ!" And it was like just coming out, and I was trying to it was awful. And the stench, fuck me. I really wasn't prepared for it. I was literally like the whole time like. All right, should we go on to the main subject?
I think we should, mate.
Main. Subject. Magic. Main. Subject. Tokyo. Main. Subject.
So, professional dungeon masters, or as I like to call them, cucks, are a strange breed, especially those who professionally live stream via Twitch. You often find that these people live for fucking D&D, spend every time they aren't playing preparing for the games, and generally become weirder and more idiosyncratic as they continue to live in this virtual world. Now that in and of itself is not really a bad thing, but in the same way that absolute power corrupts absolutely, tiny amounts of fame and power will corrupt the weird mind of a D&D streamer. Now why do I mention this? It's because today we're talking about Arcadum.
Who the fuck is he?
That's what you're gonna find out, James. You're in for a real treat, because this guy, basically, it's just me sucking him off because he's just the best guy ever.
All right, good. Sarcasm detected. Beep, 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 cock alert.
Well, he's a semi-famous D&D Twitch streamer who's recently been accused of grooming women that worked for him and giving them PTSD. We're going to examine the allegations, and I'm not going to try and be too flippant about this. We'll give the serious bits the seriousness it deserves, but there are some quite funny bits to this, and I'm sorry about that, all right? But just trust me. Just trust me, okay? Don't switch it off. I'm not making fun of it. So we're going to examine the allegations, take a closer look at the evidence, and try to see if Arcadum is, in fact, a sex pervert, or if he was just, having a good laugh, and that's it. We'll just wait for it to blow over.
Show me your boobies.
What now?
No, I was pretending to be him, having a laugh.
Well, we've been doing this. No, I'm not going to make that joke. So before we get into the allegations, let's talk about the man himself. Jeremy Black, aka Arcadum. He's a D&D. No, he isn't a D&D. He's a DM who streamed games on Twitch, and he's responsible for something called the Living World of Verum, which was a huge, living, massively multiplayer world for D&D 5th edition. And I'll get into how that works a bit later, but first we need to start at the start of the start.
Right, we're starting at the start of the start.
Because some people, they start with the end, but I'm a fucking maverick.
Mate, calm down.
So, Arcadum is a professional GM, and I'm doing that with air quotes, which is to say that people pay to be in his online games, something which is sadly common practice nowadays, where some GMs will charge up to $50 a month to participate in weekly sessions.
I don't like that. I don't like that.
No,
mate, I'm not going to lie, actually, though. If you fucking did that, mate, you'd be minted.
Me?
Yeah.
I doubt it. I mean,
you'd be minted.
I wish I could do it professionally. I wish.
Mate, the amount of money you'd make off us lot.
You know what? Yeah, fuck you. I should start charging.
Right, we're not friends anymore.
I've been doing this shit for free for years. To be fair, I very rarely have the time nor the inclination to bring snacks to the game. So I think you've more than paid for your share when I.
Oh yeah, I get a bit over the top with the snacks at the moment.
I know, I like it.
Yeah,
my wife doesn't like it though because I'm getting fat.
Shut up! Shut up!
But yeah, some GMs, right, as I said, they charge $50 up to a month to participate in weekly sessions, or some charge like a lesser amount to participate in monthly ones. And these types of games can often be thought of as actually like pay to win, because it's expected, right, that your character won't die and will last the length of the whole campaign because the players are paying customers. And
mate.
I hate this so much.
Mate, I hate that expectation.
But Arcadum, right, this guy, he had a really unique format for his online games. It was called 7 Years and 7 Days, and it was run for 77 different groups of 7 players.
Right.
Yeah, and the idea being was that he would create some kind of statistical average of all the events that happened in the campaign between those 77 groups, and the most common events that would become permanent changes to the world, right?
So he's a maths nerd.
Well, yeah, exactly. And so, as for how he managed it as for how he managed to run it for 77 groups, the campaign itself was extremely brutal, meaning that very few people actually went on to finish it, and the player characters that survived became known in the world as the Seven, right? Now, this isn't actually a really bad idea for a game, and it's pretty cool, in my opinion.
Well, it sounds pretty good. The fact that, I don't know if it's his lucky number 7 or whatever it is, but the fact that he's incorporated all of that and made it work, and 77, 77777, it seems like, okay, that's a good idea.
Well, it's a clever idea, and I think that essentially the story reason for it is that all of these 77 groups they exist within parallel universes and affect each other. So it is really kind of cool, I think. It was after he did this 77777 campaign that he started streaming on Twitch, eventually gaining 17k followers. Taking place during a cataclysmic event, the results of the 7 years, 7 days campaign and the events it put in motion became the jumping off point for his, in air quotes, living world called Verum. So essentially, his living world concept was like that of a West Marches campaign, but turned up to 11. Essentially, with the help of volunteers, people would use the Discord server as a text-based roleplay where people's characters would do shit, and every action taken by them would actually change the world. He relied on volunteers to basically bookkeep all the events, and some GMs to run scenarios for players and also adjudicate the whole thing. And then what would happen...
That sounds quite arduous.
It sounds arduous, but pretty fucking cool at the same time.
It does, but it just sounds like... Just thinking about it now, imagine trying to keep up with all of it.
Right, and let's be honest, we're not talking about this guy because he's a cool guy, right? So, if I was doing that, it would drive me mental. I'd probably have to sexually assault somebody. No, bad, wrong. But anyway, what would happen is, like, certain player groups deemed worthy enough would then have sessions run for them live on Twitch, GM'd by Arcadum himself, the big god, and he is fat, for everyone to see. Now, this is actually a pretty fun concept, and it's no surprise that so many people subscribed and tuned in to watch or playing the game. The Discord grew to thousands of players, and even attracted internet celebrity players such as Moist Critical and Huggabees from the official podcast. You will know Moist Critical as the guy... What's up, everybody? It's Critical. But yeah, anyway. So where did all of this shit go wrong, right? It sounds amazing. He's obviously a very clever guy. He's obviously got very high power level. Well, it first started with a bunch of women suddenly being ejected from the Discord server, right? And from his Verum living world. Now, I know what you're thinking. These women probably broke server rules or something like that, and it was just a coincidence. Yeah, it's just a coincidence that they're all women.
So they came about. Did people notice that they got ejected?
That's it, exactly. Because these people were like big boys in the scene, like people that made music for the campaigns, people that GM'd, people that were admins on the server, things like this.
And then they suddenly got kicked, and people were like, "Hey, what happened?"
Yes, exactly, right. So, so eventually what happened is like the banning was obviously an attempt to silence them, right, before certain allegations came to light. And if you think you know what's coming, you really don't, because this gets fucking mental. You see, the women then started to share their experiences on their personal Twitter accounts, and it wasn't long before the accusations became widespread amongst the players of Arcadum's game. And it started with a twit-longer by a lady called Kelly Siren, simply entitled My Experience with Arcadum. Now, I'll link the full statements in the description, but I'm just going to give you guys like a taste and sort of an overview of these things. So, a big thing in the Verum games was music. Several composers made themes for some of the biggest events in the game's history, and Kelly was one such musician. She was a person with a self-admitted lack of confidence that Arcadum helped her with in DMs and in the public forum of the Discord server, and she was part of the game for 3 years, considering Arcadum to be one of her closest friends. So it came as a shock when she was suddenly banned out of nowhere before receiving a message from Arcadum that said he had to ban her because his long-term girlfriend had seen the private messages he sent her.
What?
Yeah, that's right. But, so obviously something illicit was going on there, right? Because otherwise, why would his girlfriend have a problem? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And essentially, these messages contained various details of conflicts he'd had with his girlfriend. Apparently, he would do this with a lot of women. He'd tell them some sad story about his relationship via DMs, then ask the women to meet him on VR chat to talk about it, where he would break down crying. Now, I'm going to read some of Kelly's statements here, and as she puts it in her story, she says, things started to shift a bit when he suggested I comfort him in ways more than just words. She says that he would go into long, self-pitying diatribes about how undesirable he was, how sad and lonely he was, and then ask her to hug him in VR chat, right? This escalated over time to him commenting on her avatar's boobs and asking to touch them in a virtual VR chat. I want to just make that very clear.
So he got attached to the VR version.
I assume so. There's more to come, but that, in and of itself, isn't that like? I mean,
all right. So as a joke, like you know when it's a joke, but the fact that she's obviously explicitly saying how it came about, it obviously was not a joke.
It's really weird, and also because it's VR chat as well. Imagine that being the avenue to get your rocks off. There's no haptic feedback. You're not really feeling the boobs.
Nah.
I mean, all I'm commenting on now is the quality of the sexual experience it must have been, which is quite rubbish. But it's also a deeply strange thing to do as well. Now, Kelly saw this as strange as well, right? But she gave him the benefit of the doubt, seeing him as a person going through some shit and was behaving in an odd way as probably a result of a breakdown, right?
Yeah.
And speaking about this, Kelly said the following. Sometimes I would say it was okay. I found that if I was hesitant at all, he'd get really weird about it. He'd blame himself and wonder what was wrong with him. And I didn't hold this against him at the time because he was truly going through a hard time. She seems like a nice person.
Yeah.
Problem is, eventually, it meant if I were to get onto VR chat to comfort him, it would most definitely lead him to asking me if I can make him feel better in a sexual way. I told him he's going through a lot and he needs to settle his feelings and everything before reaching out in this way because he's hurt and vulnerable, and this is him rebounding. Now, that's a perfectly reasonable thing to say, and any sane person, if they had got into that position where they were doing stuff on VR chat like a complete freak, and somebody said that to you, if you were a reasonable person, you go, all right, yeah, you know what, fair enough.
You'd be like, yeah, I'm just trying to, he's obviously just trying to go deeper into that world to take his mind off the current real world he's in. But obviously he has an issue which she rightly so brought up and said, you need to deal with it.
Yeah, exactly, right?
And she'd been doing a good thing for ages, which was putting up with it and the hope that he would at some point see the light
and go back to being normal.
But he was obviously just getting deeper and deeper into this weirdness.
I don't get it as well. Like, I'm sorry, but just from a quality point of view, right? Yeah. It's a cartoon avatar. Anyway, one day she mentioned to him that she doesn't want anything like that from him and that she enjoyed his company, but not in that way at all. And his response was to be all like, oh God, no, that's not what I said. I'm in a committed relationship. I have no idea why you'd ever think that. Basically acting in complete disbelief of the whole thing, even going as far to talk to other members of the community, asking why she would ever say that and that her assumptions, in air quotes, hurt him real bad. Even though he explicitly said to her, but he was basically gaslighting. He was just saying, no, I never said that. If you thought that I was saying that, then you're ridiculous. I just wanted to touch your boobs. It wasn't sexual. It was for biological reasons. I'm doing a biology degree.
What?
Yeah, so he basically just gaslighted the fuck out of her. And anyway, Kelly says that she was afraid of being dropped from his community and losing contact with all of the friends that she'd made, and that she was afraid of him in general, and did actually acquiesce a few times, helping to gratify him during his self-pitying moments. And every time after these acts, he would apologise, say that she didn't seem like she was into it, and would constantly ask if she really wanted it, which Kelly believes means that he knew he was harassing her. I mean, that's not the behaviour of a normal person, right?
No, you don't apologise afterwards and go, like, oh, did you really want it? If you're actually unaware that it's wrong and you're like just actually a tormented
If there's any ambiguity, you probably shouldn't be doing it to begin with, right?
Yep.
Anyway, trust me, listeners, there is going to be a funny side to this eventually. But now, she does mention that she wanted to just say no and not engage him, but that she was worried of the consequences if she said no. Now, the nature of the requests and what she actually did is something we'll get into. But here's the thing. Serious accusations need to be taken seriously, and so I don't expect anyone just to simply believe a woman you've never met, but fortunately for us, us, she screen capped some conversations with him.
Oh, no.
Now, these screenshots contain text edited by Arcadum, which he then changed back after it gets brought up by Kelly, something which she addresses in these things. So we're going to do a little dramatic reading, James. I'm going to be Arcadum, you're going to be Kelly, and we'll read out some of these messages.
Okay.
All right. So let's start. This is a rehearsal of a play by me and James. Let's do this.
Yes, it's entitled Message 1. So I'm playing Kelly.
And I'll be playing Arcadum.
I'm going to try and fall asleep again. My eyes have been tired for hours.
I can't understand what you're saying with the American accent. Okay, do a British accent. A British.
Okay, right.
I'm going to try to fall asleep again.
Wait a second. I'm going to try to fall asleep again. My eyes have been tired for hours.
Before you try again, we could try it together.
Huh?
Before you try to fall asleep again, we could fap. It would help me to relax.
I was just saying, hey, if I'm going to start streaming at 4, I need to try and sleep. Haha.
Oh, all right then. No big deal. I just thought I would ask and see maybe if it would help you as well. I just know you would get me there really good, and I wanted to sleep too, and I'm sorry if I pushed too hard.
I'm extreme sleepy.
I got you. I'll leave you. Sleep well, Kelly.
Thanks, smiley face.
You're the best, Kelly. I feel kind of guilty, and I'm really sorry I made things weird. I hope you get a good sleep. There you go, the typings of a rational, normal man there.
Yep.
But it doesn't stop there, dear listener. She has a great deal of saved conversations, and there's fuckloads of them, and they're very interesting to read. And as things continued, much in the same way, she tried to deny him more and more, becoming more confident with, which Arcadum took to mean that she must be fapping with someone else from the server. This started a witch hunt where Arcadum began angrily DMing people he believed she was performing sexual acts on. In fact, Kelly confronted him about this. He denied it, despite Kelly hearing it from multiple sources, and to be honest, she was way too kind about it. So this is play number 2. Act 2.
I'm not saying you did it on purpose, but you telling them these things made them see me as someone they shouldn't interact with because you have interest in me. It's just a shitty situation. Any way you look at it.
Here I am, paying the price because I have shit to fucking ask.
And I'm allowed to be upset at the situation.
I didn't say you weren't allowed. Who the fuck said you weren't allowed to be mad?
If you're going to talk to me like this, I'm not discussing things with you until another time.
Situation is fucked. What do you mean? I want you to feel better, even if someone else is the one that makes that happen. I guess the heart of all of this is I've gotten lonelier the more successful I've gotten.
I'm sorry, perturbed face.
And I have few sources of friendship.
I've been lonely too, believe it or not, I guess.
And when I see that short supply dwindle, or when I feel a shift like that, it's devastating. But you see how quickly he tries to flip everything to being about him and tries to act as if he's the victim. Well, this is the crux of how it all went down. Crucially, though, after this, he also posted his own screenshots where he actually went back and edited the conversations, and then she added an addendum to her original statement, proving that he changed them and what originally was said. Now, this shit in and of itself is pretty damning. Allegedly, he cajoled her into performing sex acts with him while he was in a relationship and became spoiled, indignant twat when he suspected she might be doing the same with other people, and even made attempts to find out very personal information. And let's call a spade a spade. It's not looking good, what we've all approved. What do you make of those conversations? Because they don't speak illicitly about things that are done, but at the very least, we can gather that...
Well, it seems like his attitude and mannerisms are all predatory. Like, he's really trying to lurch on her.
Yeah, and like, the first thing he says, he goes, can we fap together? She says no. He goes, I'm so lonely. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's fucked up.
I can't believe that he's explicitly asked that as well.
Yes. It's weird. Really weird. And the fact is, even if she never did anything, even if he never did anything, the way that he speaks to her is clearly very, very groomy, isn't it?
Yeah, like I said, you can. This is all with context, like, so we can understand that he is actually being a fucking gruesome creature. Whereas, you can have a laugh with a mate in VR chat or someone random be like,
yeah, I mean, like, sometimes I'll text you and be like, should we jerk it together, right?
Yeah, and then we do, and then it's fine.
We do it, but it's a laugh.
Yeah.
Men. But, there is an outside chance that she made all of this up, doctored her messages, doctored the timestamps of Arcadum's edits. But what if I told you that several other people came with similar accusations, 10 women, I believe, and that a few brave souls thought to record audio of their interactions with Arcadum?
Oh, shit, son.
Now, the stuff I'm going to play to you now comes from a lady called Naomi, and she was subject to his VR chat, weird sexual shit as well. And amongst this, many of the people involved in the game would have parties on VR chat, also, where they would hang out and get drunk. One time, Naomi decided to join and was mocked in front of people, where he said something along the lines of, "This is why people don't invite you back to parties." And when she confronted him saying, "You hurt my feelings," he said this.
So... What?
No, so what I'm saying, Arcadum, is that I didn't perceive it as like you telling me that nobody likes me, because I understand that like what you were doing was banter, but the phrase like you don't get invited back to parties implies people don't like you enough to invite you back to parties, or something negative results in you not being invited back to parties.
If you take it past banter, it can mean that. So that fault is on you,
but like
not me.
I'm saying, what I'm saying is that like that phrase in and of itself did not feel like banter to me, because I don't take.
That's not my problem, is it?
I mean, wait. So
be stronger. My advice, or don't play. Like what did you think the response should have been? Like, what did you expect?
From what?
Like
from bringing this up to you?
Yeah. You got your apology. That obviously wasn't enough.
All I wanted was to let you know so that I wouldn't hold on to it, and like it wouldn't keep being like a little sore spot, right?
Yeah, you kept drawing it out though. I said, I was kidding. It was just banter. I'm sorry I hurt your feelings. That's it. That's what you came for.
And I wanted to let you know.
And then you said some banter can be hurtful
I wanted to let you know.
Because you wanted to fucking lecture me. That's what you wanted to do, and that's what you tried to do.
Now,
see, that's the problem.
Wow.
See, the thing is, right, in this clip, he doesn't really mention anything deviant specifically. And in fact, in Naomi's statements, she doesn't really either. She does say that things happen, but doesn't want to share it, which is kind of fine, right? But it does demonstrate the horrible nature of the way Arcadum talks to people that admire him. She's a fan of him, and that's how he talks to her. If you hurt somebody's feelings, right, and you put somebody down in front of other people, and then you just go, "Look, I said I was sorry. You should be perfectly okay now." I mean, it's like...
So, no, you need to, like, in that situation, all she's doing is she's just trying to be very explicit in the fact that it actually hurt her. Yes, in the forefront, he probably just went, "Oh, yeah, I'm sorry about that." Yeah, but that's probably the tone that it was. But then she's obviously explaining, like, look, just to let you know that the way it was perceived and way it came to me, it was very hurtful. So realistically, yes, he had already said sorry, but after that explanation, she was obviously looking for a secondary apology, just to be like, yeah, all right, I get it now. I am sorry about that.
She wanted a little bit of discussion, a little bit of human decency, right? That's all it is. All it is like, if I'd really hurt your feelings, right, and then you came to me and said, actually, that hurt my feelings, if I just said, well, sorry, I was just mucking around. But
but there's sincerity in it, if you went, sorry, mate, I was only
I really didn't mean, I don't know.
But if you went, oh, well, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's not, that's how you can...
Oh, sorry, mate, yeah, but just, fucking man up.
I said the specific word, sorry.
I said sorry, that's all you're getting.
And also it's like...
You just need to be stronger.
That fucking pisses me off, because it's just like, look, people can't help what hurts their feelings and what doesn't. And putting somebody down in front of other people is a really terrible thing to do. And I need to stop doing it to Ryan.
No, you don't need to carry it on.
That's right. But yeah, I don't know. And he claims, that it's just banter a lot. And earlier in the recording, he uses like word salad techniques to derail her, which is like a gaslighting thing where you just say really complicated things. And he's like, listen, you're playing a card game. You come to the table with the wrong cards, but it turns out you're playing Uno and I'm playing fucking chess. Well, maybe you played the wrong fucking card. And it's just, she doesn't know what to say, and he's just deliberately trying to confuse her. But even if it was meant, right, the comment, to make her laugh, it didn't hurt her feelings. But even if the comment was meant to make her laugh, it did hurt her feelings, and he can't accept that maybe he went too far. Instead of, he just blames her for being weak, right? Yeah. Now, the recording that Naomi did is 40 minutes long, and it contains so much more. And I would give it the whole thing a listen, but later on he brings it right back to the self-pity. Bear in mind, right, this is a conversation where Naomi is trying to get him to apologise for being a cunt, and he makes it about himself. Let's have a listen.
Yeah.
People think that, oh, you're way too hard on yourself. I'm hard on myself in the way that I'm hard on myself because once, many years ago, I allowed myself to become arrogant, and I became the most evil version of myself that I have ever witnessed.
Still is.
It disgusted me. Because imagine, you know me enough now that you know what my abilities are. Imagine if they had no temperance.
Right.
And I was selfish. Imagine the destruction that I could wreak.
I mean, that is a cool guy, right? Wow. Imagine the destruction I could wreak.
Wow, he said he used to have this ball of arrogance. It's still fucking there, mate.
I thought the same thing when I listened to it, but it's just amazing. The way he talks about himself is like, he's like an anime villain.
You know what my abilities are?
I've got a D6 in strength. Ah! You've failed me for the last time, Kakarot. But so, cool guy, basically. This is how this guy treats a perceived small issue, right? He bemoans his life, talks in his grandiose sociopath way. But there's another recording from a lady by the name of Oh Hi, it's Cry. Now, Cry was a woman that claims during her lowest moments, wait a minute, what the fuck? Oh, right. Now, Cry was a woman that claims during her lowest moments that he took advantage of her. Now, listen to this clip, and I want you to see how fast he brings it from her calling him out to forcing her to do stuff she didn't want to do, to him fishing for pity. And I do find it kind of amusing because her clip, she just saved it as oof.mp3. And this is that.
Yeah, but you were my boss and you crossed those boundaries.
I'm sorry. Oh, man, my life is falling apart.
I mean, you got yourself in a pickle, man. I don't know what else to tell you. I remember I warned you. I even warned you. I was like, just make sure you don't do this a lot, because this is how most streamers fall.
Are you doing okay? Like you said that you were really depressed, and I'm very sorry this is on you. Do you need help in any way?
How can you help me? Because my depression started because of that spiral, or you remember my plans for the summer. I was having pretty good plans, and then that started. You triggered my rape PTSD.
I'm sorry.
And it literally sent me down the spiral, and look where I'm at now. It's not easy. I was already barely climbing up my confidence ladder, and after that you just kind of knocked me back all the way to square one, and it just feels like, okay,
here it comes.
Here I go again. It just feels like,
listen very carefully, see how he switches
I
it.
have to deal with it, and you just get to say, okay, I'm sorry, and then move on with life.
So do you want me to suffer for it? Is that what you're implying?
There you go.
No.
Because you know what I get to move on to? I get to move on to being homeless and begging my wife to accept my forgiveness, or accept her forgiveness.
That's enough of that. But you get it's like she's being sexually assaulted if in fact it is true. And bear in mind, this is a private conversation between the both of them.
Yeah.
He doesn't really deny it specifically. He acknowledges that it happens, but says, "Oh, but my situation's going to be worse off than you. I know, that you were a victim of this before, and I took advantage of you. But listen, my wife's going to be really angry."
Yeah, because she literally said that he triggered that.
And, we don't know which parts are true and which aren't, but when you listen to it, considering it's a private call, I mean, it's probably he did do it, and she basically worked for him on the server, and he took advantage of it, and That kind of sucks. But anyway, he does literally apologise within the call. But later on, she says that he wouldn't take no as an answer and that he repeatedly ignored her attempts to stop him from doing various things, the nature of which is not clear. But either way, it's clear that something did happen. It wasn't right, and you can hear it in the call, and he doesn't deny it. He even offers her help, but only offers that help when he realises he's fucking his life up. It's such a pitiful attempt at redeeming himself. It's amazing.
Mate.
Now,
he's a pretty shit human, it sounds like.
Yeah. Now listen, if this wasn't damning enough, the final victim we're going to speak about is the final person to come forward with evidence. Now, there were others that came forward with accusations too, 10 women total, but this last one is the final person in the story with evidence, and she goes by the name of Falcona. And we're going to go through her statement a little bit and then talk about Arcadum's response. So, Falcona was a member of the Verum game who lived close to Arcadum, and after receiving loads of messages about his supposed, domestic situation, she invited him over to help him out and be a decent human being. And when he came round, they watched a film together with Falcona's housemate, then the housemate went to bed, and I think you know what happens next. Arcadum did the classic. He came in asking for a hug and to play with her hair. So as soon as the hug begins, his hands start wandering, and the rest is really fucked, right? I did originally type out what happened, but it's actually a bit too gross, right? But long story short, he forced himself on her whilst crying. He was crying.
Right, a bit weird.
Very weird. Now, this is her version of the story, and there's little to no proof of those actual events. But here's the dizzle. After he began emotionally bullying her pretty... after this, he began emotionally bullying her pretty hard, demonising her to other people in the server in the hopes that when her story came forward, she would look not credible, right? So there's probably some truth in it at the very least, because he tried to preempt it. He began telling people that she was mad because her character died, and she said she was going to accuse him of sexual deviance. Now, the evidence here, though, is mainly of a chat log ascertaining to Arcadum trying to deflect blame and rarely mentions the actual incident, so this one is a little harder to conclusively say what happened. But given everything we've seen so far, it's not beyond the realms of possibility, her story, right? And the thing is, at the very least, it's kind of funny because she never came forward at all for the pure reason, right, that he tried to demonise her to everyone. And you don't do that typically. I mean, what's she gaining by accusing him of this? You know what I mean? It's like... Yeah. But, there's not much evidence, so believe what you want to believe on that particular case. But the other two, I think, are fairly clear-cut, don't you?
I think they're fairly clear-cut, yeah.
So, what does he have to say about it? I think as the last thing on this main subject, and then we'll probably go for a little break, James, we'll read his statement. It's not super long, but I think we'll just sort of dissect it a little bit. So it's a twit longer, and it's simply entitled, My Response. To everyone, the past few days have been a difficult time for a lot of people, including my family, friends, and the entire community as a whole. For me, it has also been a time of personal reflection. There have been many stories and feelings shared about some of my actions over the years within the D&D community. I've been processing a lot and want to address matters as best I can. I realise I will not be able to repair much of the damage that has been done or properly share my full perspective, but I owe an explanation and apology to all of those affected. So far, hasn't admitted guilt for anything, but it's funny how sort of hypocritical he gets later on, but just, listen. The truth is, I've developed and engaged in a wide range of relationships with people over the years, some of them leading into sexual territories and times when I made mistakes and was selfish. I never sought out relationships purely for sexual purposes, and to be clear, I've never engaged in consensual activity, which we kind of know is not true. But he says these were relationships that developed as genuine friendships, and I greatly valued these friendships and still do, yet have been unfair to many of them. I'm sorry for the hurt I have caused them. Now, what's funny about that is that he doesn't admit anything, really, because he says, oh, no, they all wanted it. But we sort of know that's not true because they were saying after the fact that they really didn't. And several people with proof have come forward and said, you can take no for an answer. And he never addresses it. He never does. So that's a damn lie. Anyway, he finishes up with, to those who have been reaching out, I am sorry that I have been unresponsive. I don't know where to begin in explaining everything or apologising to many of you I have let down. I have removed myself from Callous Row, which was one of his other campaigns, Verum, and other D&D spaces, as I don't want to cause any further harm in the community that means so much to me. I will not be streaming as I continue to reflect on my actions and seek therapy for personal issues I have struggled with for some time. Again, the victim shit. He's saying, look, okay, I accept the tiniest amount of responsibility, but it was all consensual. They all liked it, but for some reason people got hurt, so I'm sorry about that. If it's probably your fault, be stronger. That's my advice. But yeah, it's just at the end, that whole thing of like, I just need to seek therapy. It's like, it's kind of like passing the blame on. Do you know what I mean? It's like we're saying, I've got personal issues.
He's putting it at the end. He's just saying, woe is me. I'm going to go get some, well, rightly so, some mental health help. But
he obviously needs it. But the thing is, it's just a little bit like, I don't know. I mean, I feel like he should just address each issue and say it and get into the meat of it. But it's basically nothing, I think, anyway. But yeah.
I seriously have no idea.
So the whole thing this has been leading to, right? I think, for the most part, our conclusion. What's your conclusion to the whole matter, James?
I think he's a bit of a waste of space, to be honest, and he's just kind of hid behind his fame that he had, and he's just trying to pass the buck on everything as opposed to owning any real apology.
And I also think that, to an extent, people relied on him for their hobby, right? There was a lot of people in his server that, you know, a lot of their best friends were there. They spent 7 years playing with these people and stuff like this, and he took advantage of that, knowing that people held the game so dearly. He knew that they didn't want to lose the friends, and he took advantage of that fact, you know. And it's just very sad. But the cool thing is about all of this, and there is one cool thing. Somebody made sort of an anime trailer for Arcadum, and it's one of the best things I've ever heard.
What?
It's called Arcadum 17.8%.
I mean, do you think that if you didn't do D&D that people wouldn't be friends with you? Like, that's not the case.
Yes. No. I know that's in fact, I can give you a percentage. It is actually, I believe it is 17.8% of the people that I run D&D for will continue to be my friends once the game is done. I have that number for you. I have made that calculation. I have made that calculation 4 separate occasions. The evidence is empirical. So, sorry. I believe it is 48% of you won't talk to me ever again.
Wait, what about the other percent?
Passing messages, not a real friendship. Now, those numbers are probably going to be more bloated onto the passivity due to my position as a streamer. I haven't done the recalculations based off of that yet, but I can tell you unequivocally that the use of D&D in order to make friends has a 17.8% retention rate. That's the tragedy that I live. So, I don't expect you to understand that. I don't bring it up because it just makes people feel awful. But that's the reality of it.
I mean, is that like for all DMs or for you specifically?
That's for me. I can't speak for all DMs.
Right.
That's for me specifically. But considering that that's the only measurement that matters is because it's me. I'm not someone else. So, yeah, that's me specifically.
Okay, but like, have you thought about why they wouldn't? Like, aside from the obvious clout chasers. Because
oh no. This is before clout.
Okay.
This is before any of that. These measurements are based off my entire career. So 17.8%.
Okay. Well, have you thought about why though?
Of course I have, Naomi. Please. Yes, I have. I have augmented behaviors. I have done experiments to determine why. I have tried to pick different ethnicities. I've tried to do different gender counts. I've done everything that was within my power to experiment, and that number has remained depressingly the same. So, that's the way it is. It could just be because it's me. That's why I don't talk about it. That's also why I don't play Among Us.
And that's why I don't play Among Us. But Jesus Christ, it's so good, that video. And they edited it together with Death Note footage, which is just the fucking best. So when he's saying, I did the calculations. But do you know how many... Because you can't have a percentage of a person, a single person, for a friend, right? It has to be... So for 17.8%, that would have to be thousands of people.
Yeah.
That's still more friends than I've got.
Yeah, man.
All my friends are in this room now.
What? I don't see any of mine.
Nice.
Skadoonch. Yeah, he's a bit mental.
But things like this, unfortunately, they exist within the RPG community, and it happens an awful lot. I mean, we saw the Dungeon World creator rape somebody's character, you know, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. That's all imaginary. Some of this was imaginary too, but yeah, Arcadum is a good contender for the shitbag of the year, right?
Yeah.
But that was Arcadum. That was a look into the life of a fat neckbeard getting famous who has untold destructive power. 17.8%. He's done the calculation.
You know what's fucking irritating is that I don't care for RPG famous people, right? The only people that I would say I care about are people, for instance, like Richard Woolcock. He's a RPG legend. He's an absolute genius, but he's a properly nice bloke. I don't think I'd ever see him sitting there at a GM table being like, yeah, it's £50 a pop.
Yeah. I mean, that's a very, very good point, because, you know, RPG celebritydom is, to me, a very stupid fucking concept. I mean, that's why our podcast has remained so, you know, low view count all over the years. Because we don't want the fame. Okay.
And the thing is, it's like, you know, everything that we try and do as part of the podcast as well is like we try and feed back into the podcast. I don't.
Yeah.
You know, we don't swindle anything because there's nothing much to swindle.
Well, I mean, there's nobody to take advantage of. That's the trouble.
Well,
if anyone wants to be taken advantage of, just send us an email.
So maybe we should cut that out.
No, but the thing is that he. Yeah, I mean, it's just so sad that people with this tiny amount of power could abuse it in that manner. I mean, I see it in small ways very, very often in the RPG hobby. Arcadum is what people think D&D players are like, and that's the sad thing. But I see it all the time in small areas of the hobby where people are just dicks to each other constantly because they're angry fucking neckbeards and they think their games are so great that you should be grateful for it. You know, little things like that.
Yeah, but it's just like fucking...
And sometimes there is a bit of a power balance between GMs and players, and GMs think they're so fucking great, but... You know, just don't be like this fucking guy. Not even in a small way. Because, you know, when he was just talking about the fact that he'd hurt somebody's feelings, that type of stuff, I think, needs to leave the RPG industry completely. We're all enjoying the same hobby. Let's not be dicks to each other. Let's not rape each other. It's pretty simple.
Yep, I just think we just need a bit more... I don't know, you know, every kind of story, there's always, like, depending on what one you play, but majority of the stories, there's always... the backbone of everything is like heroic and pleasantries and all that stuff, and nice, because you're trying to create a nice story. That is the part of the RPG world that just needs to be at the forefront.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, maybe there's something about the hobby, you know, because D&D at its core, as you say, is a game about heroes, right? But the thing is, maybe this hobby just attracts weird fucking people because it is niche. And also, you do get the opportunity to, like, there's a guy in our group, and he doesn't listen to this, so it's fine. But he's sort of like, he always plays evil characters, and I actually think he plays them really well. But he also was, you know, once talking to us, like, about the fact he knew how to make explosives and stuff. I'm like,
real life.
Yeah, there's a possibility that we might have one of those in our game. We'll keep you posted on that, listeners. But yeah, for some reason, I think this hobby attracts fucking nutters. And it's also like, there's this perception of the hobby that once a girl sits at the table, they're going to get harassed. And this guy is like the living embodiment of that. He's not doing us any favours. No. I mean, how are we going to get women to our table to harass with this guy fucking ruining it for everyone? Anyway, let's go on to Electro letters.
In the future, you will be able to send a letter or parcel from anywhere on the planet. This, sir, is the Electro letter.
So I just asked for you guys' questions. We got some from Discord, we got some from Facebook, we've got some from MySpace, which is quite weird because we don't even have an account on there.
Yeah.
First one, bloody Henrik Erlandson. He comes in and he says, "Have you burned your Mork Borg books?"
No.
So, the Lost Ending. We'll talk about that a little bit now. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to completely spoil the ending for Mork Borg now. So I'd say go forward about 2 minutes if you don't want to hear it, right?
Wait, are you actually?
Yeah, because I want to talk about that, because there was essentially... Okay, right, skip forward now. Spoiler territory. I'll play a little jingle.
Spoiler territory.
So the ending really is that it was supposed to. The reason there's all those sounds, the sound is of the Timefall eating the rest of the world up. That's all it is. But the thing is that the reason that it just ends with the killing is because that was the only thing that ever mattered. The goodbyes, the pleasant ending, none of that mattered. The world ended, right? But there was a sub-ending after that, like a prologue, where...
It's going to be in the omnibus.
It will be in the omnibus when I put them all together, where the guys basically met a hive mind created by all GMs ever. It was basically like... I had like a shared consciousness of GMs that was saying that there's only one way your characters are ever going to escape the story.
Like the fourth wall, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. And there's only one way your characters will ever escape. There's one rule in the book that you never paid attention to, and the characters are like, "What, the book?" and all of this.
Burn
stuff.
the book.
Yeah, and so essentially the characters then looped and did the story over and over and over again, and the only way to escape was to burn the book. And James,
the question came to me, and I went, "No, mate, it was a gift." If I bought it myself, potentially I may have done. But it was bought for me.
I gave him a lighter. I gave him the opportunity to burn it to save his characters. But actually, in the end, his characters are now in an endless loop because he refused to burn his birthday present. But I thought I thought it would be a fun kind of dilemma for you guys at the end. But what was really funny about it, and you'll hear this in the Omnibus edition, listener. What was really funny about it was just like this sort of weird consciousness was talking to the players and the PCs directly, and was sort of like, "You know what you have to do." James was like, "Well, I'm not burning the fucking book." He just there was a sudden realization. Yeah. But yeah, so no, we didn't, and I'm not going to because I've got a first edition, and I really don't want to burn it either.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's the problem. I also didn't want to chuck a knife at the page. But yeah, well, no, we haven't burned it, and that's the reason why. Now you know. Garrett Weinstein, he says, was there any part of your Morkborg campaign that wasn't fun? Also, you guys should tell us some more stories about the crazy shit done by former co-workers of yours. All right, we'll get to co-workers. Was there any bit of the Morkborg campaign that wasn't fun?
No.
Well, what about when Nick came all the way from his house and forgot his lead for his microphone? You had to go back home and get yours.
Oh, that was annoying. I turned up and didn't have his lead, and I was just like, so I would just share a mic, and I was just immediately started walking out. Nat, can't share a mic for this fucking thing, mate.
Especially because Nick's mic discipline is bad enough, and when he shares it with somebody else, it's like, so if you've ever noticed during the APs that Nick sounds like this, James, do an impression.
Yeah, so I'm just, like that. Yes, master.
You see what we did? That was probably the only part that wasn't fun. And you know what happens every single time we do a fucking actual play as well? At least one of the episodes, there's a fucking audio problem. And actually, that is on probably me or faulty equipment. And we have to re-record an episode, which means I have to do subtle rewrites of the episode as well.
Because
and
each time round, like, not in the Morkborg, but some of my previous ones, it's like, we expect things to happen, but because of the rewrite, it doesn't. So it's just like, what?
I tell you what, I loved this campaign, like, a lot. And I don't think, if we're speaking specifically about the game, there wasn't any part that I didn't enjoy, I don't think. Because it was impossible, because it's an entertainment product that we're making with the APs, right? So specifically, games that are rules light like that make it perfect, because it's basically just us dicking around and occasionally rolling dice. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Sort of a big part of Morkborg is the fact that you are really supposed to die, right?
Yeah.
And it was like the game got weirder and weirder at the end because the end wasn't really designed for you guys ever to get to. That was kind of the deeper meaning behind it. If it's quite pretentious to say that, but I was genuinely trying to put in a reason in the world as to why you guys hadn't died yet. I mean, the real reason is because the dice rolls just went incredibly well the whole time.
It is true. We had phenomenal rolls, and it was...
I don't think we've ever played a campaign, at least on the actual plays, that was like that lucky.
Because, yeah, we were teetering on death in the whole final episode.
You had one hit point, and as we said in our end discussion, you both started on 1 hit point, and the only thing that happened throughout the whole thing was you gained HP. And not only that, but you killed the final boss in 1 hit because you got the exact roll required to get that instant kill.
I like the fact that we chanted it as well, because I was getting well hyped.
That was such a fucking cool moment, man. But I was expecting you guys to die there. So, 1 HP each. Well, anyway, but I suppose that it's not that wasn't fun, But I've got to be honest, I wanted it just to be a campaign for once with an abrupt ending where you both just die.
Well, yeah, like I said, a lot of the listeners who responded about it actually enjoyed it and just like, ooh, ominous or like ambiguous. I like it.
There were some people that thought we were lying as well, that were like...
Yeah, it's like, oh, yes, so it's not really over then.
It's like, how did you get fucking 3 crits in a row? I'm like, no, you got 3 fucking crits in a row. It was really happening.
Yeah.
I'd like to release like maybe an unedited version of it, or just maybe cut out the boring parts, just to show people like this is really what was happening. Like, it's ridiculous. But yeah, crazy stories done by former co-workers of yours. Well, I used to. This is something that I also did. I might have sold this on the podcast at a certain point, but I used to work for a company selling bikes, and I've mentioned this on the Discord server. I won't say what company it is, but I used to work for their head office, right? And we got treated like scum. Like, they would consistently take our bonuses away, extend our hours, loads of... They would keep people on probation for as long as possible by finding minor faults so that they could easily sack people at a moment's notice. Like, awful. Never worked for a call centre. So, we got paid fucking nothing as well, because most of our salary was in the bonuses that they wouldn't give us. So we acted like idiots. And there was a point where whenever the managers, of which there were 3, right, because it's a fucking call centre, whenever they weren't looking, everyone would start making bird noises for some reason. Which was, and then they'd turn around and wouldn't be able to see who did it, obviously. And it got so out of hand that at one point managers called a meeting and were like, I can't believe I have to say this, but can we stop with the bird noises? Anybody that we see doing it is going to get fired immediately.
Fuck it.
And another thing we all did as well was that, and this was my friend Zane's idea, and I know he doesn't listen to this, but Zane, shout out. We started stealing food from the kitchen that was had been there long enough that it probably didn't belong to anyone anymore, and scattering it outside to create a colony of rats. And it got so bad. It got so bad that I walked outside one day, and it looked like the ground was moving because there was so many rats in the car park. It was like we put down old ham, cheese, cereal, coffee, old tea bags, bits of rubbish, and we've just created a colony of rats. It was intensely bad. And, that was another thing management noticed and stopped us from doing. That was a weird company, man.
Wow.
Yeah, and there was the CEO as well. His office was in our offices, and he used to cycle to work every day. And his shirts, he would hang them at work and get changed in his office. And one of my colleagues came in one day, had cycled in, had a sweaty, trench arse, got one of Stuart's shirts and just really fucking rammed it up his arse. And there was a big shit smear down the back of it. And the fucking CEO came in one day and was wearing the shirt. And as he was walking through the office, you could just see this big brown line down his back.
Oh, no!
It's awful. It's really bad. But he was a proper twat. Like, he was a real cunt. How about you? Crazy co-worker stories?
Mate, I don't think I have any that can contend, to be honest.
Alright, fair enough.
Yeah, if I think about it, I'll bring it up next time.
You were there, though, once. A couple of my colleagues from that job were on our stag do, and we called up our boss drunk at 3 a.m. doing bird noises down the phone. And it was like, you were joining in as well, and all of us were just... I remember hanging up the phone, and my mate saying, he was just like, was that a good idea? And I'm like, it was a fucking great idea. We've been just drunk as fuck.
That's why we were in my bedroom, weren't we?
Yep.
Yeah.
And your housemate, we wouldn't let him sleep, and we were doing impressions of his mum. He changed live with this absolute twat. I won't say his... Well, I kind of do have to say his name. Let's just say his name was John, right? And we were pretending to be his mum. He was asleep in the next room. We were like, John, it's your mum speaking. I wanted to drown you when you were a child. Things like this. So late into the evening. It was good. That was a good stag do, man. Calling up your boss and doing bird noises. Yeah. Good times. Anyway, next question comes in from Victor Ulansky. He says, I have a 3D question, right? So if you can get your mind around that for a second. Have you ever played Delta Green? No. The Genesis? No. Dune 2D20? No. What are your thoughts and opinions on them? None. Lewis Pineda, he says, right up... No, for serious though, I think that the 2D20 system looks really terrible. Delta Green is basically military Cthulhu, and it looks fucking great. So I do want to play both of those things. No, I have no thoughts on them as of yet. Lewis Pineda, Write-up idea for fun. Character ideas for a one-shot taking place at a gaming convention turned zombie apocalypse ground zero. Any game system. Character ideas for that. So it's a game convention. The thing is, I mean, you really just got to go for fat neck. I put Arcadum in. He'd be a character, right? And he has the power to... Well, let's not get into that, but he'd be a character. I put Sean Patrick Fallon. I'd do Byron Hall.
Oh, mate. What about fucking...
that guy that wrote Black Tokyo.
Justin Soroy.
Justin Soroy being there. And what we call it is the Night of the Male Feminists. Because they all turn out to be terrible people for some reason. So you're playing the bad guys. It's like the zombies are the better of the two.
Yeah. I think that's a good idea.
I think it's a great idea. And copyright. I just fucking knocked into my microphone with my glasses. Copyright. Right, let's go to Discord. We've got some questions on there. We'll just answer like a couple of them because we've been doing this for ages and it's really hot in this room. Which RPG company do you think will get the license to bring back the RPG based on Michael Moorcock's Hawkmoon /Stormbringer /Elric novels? Mad Van Holes, he replies with, I wish DCC would. So, James, I've read the Elric books. They're quite good. There is an official RPG, but it hasn't been one made in ages. And essentially the plot of it is that it's one of the most over-the-top high fantasy things you've ever seen. Basically, the main character is like this king with immense power called Elric, who has a gigantic living demon sword, is an albino, and rules over a kingdom in the sort of like most brutal way possible. And one of the storylines is that his cousin takes his wife away to another Cthulhu-like dimension. It's similar to the Stranger Things, like the Under, whatever it's called. And he has to follow him into the darkness to get his wife back, or something like that.
Wow.
But it's a really, really good, very high-powered setting. It's like what you would be if you're level 15 D&D kind of characters. So, honestly, I don't think DCC would be a good fit for that. I think, you know, a 5th edition one would probably be alright.
Yeah, DCC's a bit too on the character churning, and that you really want a longevity of your characters to survive. So yeah, 5e I think is probably quite good fit.
It's a boring answer, but it is true. I mean, the thing is, if you're playing in the Elric universe, you don't want to be one of the grunts that gets pushed around by Elric.
Yeah, because if it actually had to be fully properly published, it would have to be that system.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree. And great books as well if you fancy a good read. Dr. Fuckenstein, he says, now that Morkborg is done and it has an actual play, will you be doing DCC Lankmar? No.
We won't. We've already got one teed up. Yeah,
we're doing Astonishing Swordsmen and Sorcerers of Hyperborea 3rd edition.
Oh, yeah.
And James has come up with a fucking great idea for a campaign. So that's what we're going to do next. And then after that, we're doing Dying Earth for DCC. So that's, we've already got the next two in there, sadly. Maybe Lankmar after that.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
I mean, DCC is our go-to, so we're never going to fall short of that. But, you know.
I can't wait to get back to it, to be perfectly honest.
I think it's AP. It works so well with our actual plays.
I completely agree because it's simple enough, but has enough cool random shit that can happen, and especially with magic. I mean, look at how fucking Ravenlord ended. But... Ace. So we'll do this as the last one, but what's the drunkest game you remember playing? What happened?
Oh my god. We were doing the what the fuck was it called? The con.
Dragon Meat.
No, not Dragon Meat.
Savage Con.
It was the one online that we did.
Was it FG Con? Fantasy Grounds Con? Or NivCon?
NivCon!
That was it.
That was it. So me and Harrison were together in NivCon and we were absolutely steaming drunk. And we tried initially to sit at two ends of a table, but then our mics were bleeding terribly. So we ended up using two laptops but one mic. But we were just getting raucous, mate. We were just like... I was getting way too in
There's also more to this story that we can't tell, but we were very drunk. Wink.
No winks.
No winks. No, sorry, delete that. I'll bleep the wink.
we were just really fucked up.
Yeah, and we were playing Fiasco as well.
Yeah,
and
we were getting super involved in so many nitty gritties.
Absolutely fucking trolleyed on that one. Now that was a good one. Another one is the one where you had 4 pints before coming to a Solomon game, like literally before the game. You were so fucking hammered.
Wait, you were running it. You were just as drunk as me.
I wasn't just. I was almost there because I met you at the tail end of your pub visit, and I remember Nick sharing that meme of Ralph Wiggum, and it's like 4 pints before the game. I'm gonna die. But it was like the end half of the game when the alcohol was starting to wear off. That got really sluggish.
And the other really drunk one was the one that we know is Bad Friday at Con on the Cob.
That was yeah. I mean, can we tell the story? The famous story of you and your interactions.
What, the planking on the table?
There was more. Well, we can cut this, but I'll tell it. But if you want me to cut it, we'll cut it. But the funny thing is that we called it Bad Friday because it was the last night at Con on the Cob that all of the Nerds International crew, when that was still a thing, could get drunk, right? Because everyone was waking up the next morning or getting on planes, whatever. So everyone got fucking trolleyed, and James, like, I want to be completely clear, there was only adults in the gaming area at the time, but James put his bum out onto a table and mooned everyone. And
I was trying to put them off. They were playing Genesis.
And it was a really serious Genesis game as well, and people were just trying to ignore this, like, arse just sort of like, you sort of like propped it onto a table.
Just resting.
It was just resting there. It was quite nice, actually. But the everyone was trying to wind you up, and they were like, James, there was kids in the hall. Why are you trying to flash kids, man? And stuff like this. But then, obviously, we carried on drinking, and this very nice, like, mild-mannered couple came and sat with us, and James was really drunk, and he was pouring out moonshine for everyone.
Yeah.
And he passed one to Jamie, the boss of Nerds International, and James was like, no, I don't want it. And James, what was your very mature response?
My really mature response was to stare at him kind of in the face. I couldn't see straight, but then I went, shut up and drink it or I'll rape you.
And this couple sitting there were just like, but it was so loud as well.
Yeah, I'm one of those hyperactive and loud drunks.
Mm-hmm.
So it was ungodly loud, and it was in a really empty hall space that you could probably shoulder to shoulder fit a couple thousand people in.
Yeah, 100%. It echoed.
Yeah.
Probably one of my worst drunk games was a game of Call of Cthulhu we played at Dragon Meet. What happened is we all got so hammered during the day. There was a point where Nick was falling asleep during a Tales of the Loop game at 2 PM, and fell asleep at the auction as well, actually. And anyway, so I said to the guys, here's the time for the game, let's go get a McDonald's. We're all fucking hammered, and it turns out I was so drunk I read the time wrong, and we were 2 hours late, and then we just had to go home.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Oh god, that was funny because I wasn't part of that Tales from the Loot game that you and Nick were on, because I was with Sean, wasn't I?
He was fucking battered.
It was so funny. They were both so drunk, right? Well, Nick specifically was that Harrison was bidding for a book, and then Nick started to bid as well, because in his mind he thought, well, if one of us gets it, then air quotes, the podcast gets it, yeah? Our gaming group gets it. But then it ended up being a bidding war between Harrison and Nick.
Right.
And Harrison was just like, yeah, but I want it.
It's for a Discworld book, a series that both Nick and I do like, but I think I'm a bit more of a fan of it than he is. And that annoyed me. That got me.
It was so funny. It was like, yeah, mate, you know, I forgot.
Dragon Meet is a lot of fun, but it's just bad all round. Like, the podcast that we did the last time we went, when there's only 16 minutes of usable footage as well. It's like, it's really embarrassing because I was so trolleyed, and I remember trying to run Dark Overlord, which is a card game, right? And I couldn't remember the rules, so I just made them up on the spot. It was a good laugh, but fuck. And it's like you know when you have an embarrassing moment when you're drunk and you just kick yourself for it all the time. So Shogun, one of our listeners, his girlfriend was at the game, and I'll just put it this way, she's a very beautiful woman, of course, but very short, right? Then Daniel Irwin, another listener, I meet his mate Claire, who I'm now friends with, so it worked out all right, but she's also a short woman. And in my drunken haze, I thought one was the other because I'd never seen them both at the same time, right? And Claire, the first thing I said to her in this meeting, I was like, yeah, like just like earlier, you fucking idiot, or something like this. I'd never even met her before. And she was just like, what? And then I realised, I was like, hang on, this one has short hair, the other one. And then I was just like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, I thought you were somebody else. But it was like, I was kicking myself for ages after that. But we actually had an evening game booked there, but had to go home because we were too drunk.
Brilliant.
Yeah, it was awful because Shogun bought Jack Daniels to the game. Yeah, honey Jack Daniels, and was feeding it to us. And Nick bought Burger King on the way home, realised he had his train coming, so he stashed it in his bag and forgot about it until the next morning. Yeah. Would you have still eaten it, though?
Depends what state it was, mate, but yeah, probably.
I probably would have, yeah.
It's like when you eat a kebab. I want a kebab now.
Yeah, me too. Anyway, that is it for questions this time. There are a couple more in there, but we'll save them for the next podcast. So let's do an outro, shall we?
Yes.
I seriously have no idea.
Goodbye.
I can't believe your recording setup it's lasted. We've done it.
Yeah. I've got an outdated Mac, and it's kind of it's one of those things where I just need to replace it now. But because it's also one of those, I just have it sort of set up as a hub, so it's just always on. So kind of everything, like the process and everything, just always used. So it's getting a bit fucked.
It's bloody fucked. It's fucked up beyond recognition.
Fucked up, mate.
But yeah. So I guess that was a show. Final word on it is: don't be a creep, and if you do, make sure it's consensual.
Yeah, and also own your apologies and what you've done.
Yeah, be a real person, you know. And actually own up to shit and try to be a better person, because then no one can blame you. If you've made a mistake, you made a mistake. But Arcadum, I don't think it was a mistake, because he knows his abilities. He's done the calculations. Anyway, yeah, thank you very much for your questions. If you want to send us questions for the future or feedback, you can do it at 3trpgpod@gmail.com or on Facebook, Twitter, or see the other one? Oh, Discord. Search for the Discord server. Yeah. I'm not putting the link about anywhere at the moment because somebody tried to dox me, right? And he didn't manage to succeed because I am fucking Jason Bourne. Anyway, yeah, well, I've been Harrison Hunt.
I've been James Clark.
And remember, the D20s are cool, but 20Ds...
No, that's a good time.
I'm leaving that pause in.